9:34 and I'm starting on 10 time. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you hear my voice, clap 3 times. Thank you very much. Let's get started and stop sharing new listings, especially in the back. Can I have you join us or leave the room with your latest listings? Do you want to join us? We love you too. Come on down to the next contestant on Let's Negotiate while you're not going to talk about videos. I'm so kidding. Okay, Tenny Pins here, negotiating, getting to yes. This is a topic in an area where I'm very, very passionate. I believe it's an integral part of what we do. And there's a fine art to it. I fail at it often, and I think sometimes I get myself or my objectives or my outcomes in the way of what everyone's trying to achieve. And I was faced with this just recently over the weekend with a client. I'll start with a quick story because every presenter should start with that instead of putting to sleep first. So, I represent a buyer, and he's buying a home in Green Hills, 3 doors down from his parents. All this information is pertinent, and I'm sure you'll see why, and if not, we'll talk more. He's buying a home 3 doors down from his parents. His parents are going to partially finance this home, and we're going in non-contingent. The home is in the 900s. It's an attached HPR, was built pre-HPR Palooza. And it's a beautiful home. It's owned by an interior designer who is super proud of it. Probably the most proud of a home I've ever seen of a seller, to the niche of, obviously has the booties when you walk in, and like, here's some hand sanitizer before you touch my counters, and lots of pre-qualifications as far as getting into this home. Then you walk in her closet and it looks like a medical room. I like Edward Scissorhands or something bizarre, like something's going on in there. Very, very interesting. We show it, he likes it, of course. His parents would love him to live 3 doors down. They're in their 70s. And we write an offer, and he asked for comps. I give him comps, write an offer. We negotiate down to, I want to say 810. It was priced, I think, at 865, started at 965, been on the market a year. Asked the agent where was her seller's head when creating comps. I would love to see the comps. I'm having dinner the night I'm writing the offer with a friend, and she looks at the comps and says, I'd give them 775. I don't disagree. I suggest to the buyer, I send him the data. Of course, he says, Ted, I trust you. Watch out for that. I trust you, and where do you think we should go? I said, I always try to find a number that's aggressive but shy of offensive. That's the language I use consistently when I come to writing offers. Let's find a number that's aggressive but shy of offensive. Now, how do we find that? Well, I'm going to do a series of calls to the seller to do due diligence to determine potentially where the seller is coming from and what their expectations are. All this, to me, plays into the art of the negotiation, right? Because I've got to get to their why and understand not just my clients, but theirs. So I get, she tells me, Ted, well, I ran comps, and I said, great, I'd love to see those, of course, which I never saw those by the time I needed to get an offer in order to be timely. And my client says, let's go in at 810, which, again, I thought sub 8 was probably right. We negotiate the deal, and we get to agreement, and she says, it's as is, which means, of course, you can get an inspection, but we're not going to make any repairs. And, of course, we know that's just posturing, and potentially we could still ask for repairs. So we get under contract, and about 24 hours after we're under contract, my buyer says, well, it would have been nice to know that the house that's attached next door sold 2 years ago, didn't include that part, that it sold for $650. I said, oh, that's key information, let me look that up. Yes, it did, it sold 2 years ago. And so rather than my typical self getting reactive to that, I tried to be objective and understand that would be potentially emotionally triggering as a buyer, that when finding out the exact same house that's attached next door sold in what seems like to him a reasonable amount of time, sold for more than $100 grand less than what he offered and contracted for. So immediately I start feeling the responsibility of I misquoted, I didn't give them this information, I just explained, look, I didn't share that data with you because it's not pertinent, based on appraisal comps. And I always try to reference factual data as to why I do what I do versus just, hey, I'm a pro, and this is awesome, and oh, that's too old. Why is it too old? Always think why and what if, why and what if. Because when you're writing contracts and you're talking to people, you better be an understanding as to the why and what if they're about to ask you. So, I don't believe it's a chess game about winning. I believe it's a chess game about, creating comfort. Because ultimately, this client is a really interesting cat. He lives on the deep end of the pool, which I love. He's turned me on to all sorts of amazing books, and he really believes in energy. And he says, price my home tech wherever you think it'll sell, and kumbaya. He's a really in-touch cat that we could have a whole conversation. I was on vacation, which was another bonus of the whole deal, which is a nightmare, but we could have a whole dialogue about the psychology that was going on with the seller and what was triggering her when we tried to negotiate inspections, in which she originally was going to do some things, leaky toilet, things that are quite objectionable, to where she got so furious and said, I'm not going to do a damn thing. Not a thing. And there were some errors on my side as to why, when we ordered inspection, we did not order HVAC, radon, or termite. Those are sort of important when you're ordering an inspection. It was a simple click of a mouse in haste. So we did some workaround to make that happen. Ultimately, my client did buy it as is, paid his contract price, which is it a good deal? I don't know. A willing buyer and a willing seller is what makes something the deal, right? So, before we get started today, are there any things in particular that you want me to cover so that I make sure as we're going through that I get those answered? Anything in particular you just hear for the general show? Yes?
I just want to get out of vanilla negotiation.
Vanilla negotiation. Yeah.
You offer $10,000 less, then you come in and you settle at $5,000.
Oh my God, let's just
split the difference.
Boring. I want to do something different than that.
Okay, next. Yes?
I'd like to address when you have just a real chasm between yourself and the other negotiator.
Oh, that never happens to me.
Either because they are completely inept or
Or on inept.
or inept, exactly.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying.
Would it be fair to say like personality problems or diffs?
Either personality or experience/knowledge.
Oh, okay.
With someone who doesn't understand negotiations, and it's just all about I want to beat you up, or
Yes.
regardless, or trying to find a way to open the conversation.
I love this. Okay, this is really good. Thank you. Yes?
Situations where it's like a builder's contract and there really isn't a lot of things to negotiate, but
Yes.
you don't want your clients to feel like you're just not giving them any power.
Yes. Nobody feels good unless they're winning,
Yeah.
right? Those who accept lose. Whoever signs it last loses, right? Yes.
Well, looking at the other side of that, what about the approach of negotiating so it's a win-win?
Absolutely. Well, that's of course what we're going to talk about today. But we all know that never really feels that way. We just tell them that because it feels good. Yes?
Negotiating with the home sale contingency.
Oh, the home sale contingency. Okay. Anything in particular with that? As far as if you have one and how do you work around that?
Yeah, and how to win the deal when you got a home sale contingency.
Okay. Boy, the word winning is so loaded for me.
Get it under contract.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything wrong in using it. I just think that it has, like all language does, and is important in negotiating, it's just loaded. And we have to be mindful to what does that language speak to for us, more importantly to our clients, and even most importantly for the other agent, right?
Well, if you keep getting beat out because of home sale contingency.
For sure. Yeah, there is definitely
lost a little.
there is definitely a logistical challenge here as to how do we best position our contractor offer with a home sale. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Okay. Excellent. Got nothing to cover here. This is good.
So the language, like some other things, how you phrase things like would you say aggressive but not offensive?
Yes.
Offer, like talking through your clients, I think using language like that can help set expectations.
Yes. Setting or managing expectations. You know Bobby's famous saying she got from my buddy Scotty. Expectations are always met when understood. Don't know that I totally agree, but I think you got a better shot if they are understood. Feel good with this list? We really can probably close this up and just go to that and we'll take it from there, but we'll go ahead and use the slides just to keep us sleeping. Because I want to highlight a few of these things and I want to get into the nuts and bolts, and they're just some of the basics that I think you need to recall, and I do have a handout. The handout is not what's on the slides here. So the handout is a key sheet that was written by a professor at Clemson who's a friend of mine that teaches a class on negotiation. So it's a pretty cool piece, and I'll share that with you. I want you to look at the recalling the buying and selling event, because there's so many places that negotiation is involved. And obviously a lot of these things, I want to talk a little bit, it's hard to encapsulate what I would call a negotiating master's class in a 1 hour. To me, this is probably more of an 8-hour class, and so we can split it up or do it differently, and I'm happy to offer that. But some of the places where I know we hear hiccups is commission and retainer fee, and it's interesting that doesn't get brought up. I hope that's not as much of an objection for most of you anymore. Does anyone not charge a retainer fee and be high and proud? Yes. Cool. Does anyone struggle with that charges a retainer fee or has a good script or position on why they charge that and would be open to sharing that? Yes, Rebecca.
I'll just share that this was
Please.
from Greg Caratelli. Since I heard him say early on, I haven't made it my own yet, but objections to a fee of any sort, saying it's not a cost, it's an investment in your process, or whether it's your process for selling or for buying, and it's going to reap the reward that is part of it.
Yep. So I'll recap that if everyone didn't hear. It's not a cost, it's an investment in your process. So I frame it a little bit differently, and in some ways I have to look at what my value is. Do I think I'm worth more than an agent that's been doing it 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years? Yes, I do. Only because of why I understand what my value is, and that I can speak to that clearly, confidently, and peacefully, and that I'm not harmed either way as to whether they believe it or that they don't, or that I'm arrogant about it. Like, the proof's in the pudding, right? Now, did I make a mistake this week? Yeah, of course. And were there multiple factors that created that are getting addressed immediately? Absolutely. But am I worth $488 more in my team and process than someone that's on the job training or new to the band? Yes, I am. So there's a lot of different ways in which to structure and phrase that as to what that's paying for. But what it's going to, the bottom line to all of this is be prepared, because it's not if, it's when the question will come up, and you want to have the answer to that. Same thing on commission. Why do you charge what you charge? Zillow charges this, Open Door charges this, Redfin, Markspan, everybody's going to give a deal. If I buy a house and you sell a house, will you give me a discount? I'm your brother. Will you give me a discount? It rhymes with no. Discuss marketing money. Be prepared for that, especially working with builders, in that not always is the marketing budget included in the commission. So if you get into a development situation, you've got an army of resources here that can help you with that. Arranging a marketing campaign, again, setting expectations, negotiating. What is this going to look like? Do you expect open houses every weekend? Have a plan. The quicker that you go forth with a plan, the less likely you're figuring it out amongst you, right? It's not time for the collaborative marketing plan. Although I do ask them, are there other things that you have heard or are interested in that you think may be beneficial to selling your home? A lot of times this is a good way to do this at the pre-listing stage, because that you can get an idea that they had a neighbor whose agent, held a lemonade stand every weekend, and they brought their kids and they put it on social media, and it was amazing the viral impact that had, and all of a sudden you're competing with the lemonade stand. So be mindful. This sounds crazy, but it's metaphorical for a lot of things that go on in that process. Excuse me. Qualifying buyers, dealing with offers and counters. So this one's tough for me because I can be a talker, and really to me it's most about the questions and finding out their why. We go through this process with agents. If you've worked with Bobby, you know that this is an integral part of when you start your real estate business. If you don't get in touch with why you're doing this, and hopefully it's more than money, it's going to be a hard road for you. And I think that goes with just about anything. Until you understand really the why and the convictions of it, then it's harder to stand for something. So they're all different. Of course, we know that. Again, some of the basics here. I use language. I'm very careful about language in using words like fiduciary responsibility. I'm here to protect and represent your best interest. What does that mean? Explain that to them. They really need to understand the law and the paperwork that they're signing, and I think we do a terrible job of giving them adequate explanation and demonstration of what our role and job is. And give them examples, such as, before you sign this document and we're sitting here having cocktails, I'm still required to give you honesty and good faith, right, as a customer versus a client. What's the difference in someone signing and becoming a client? Has to what?
Obey lawful orders.
Obey lawful orders, yes?
Look out for their interests first.
Put their interests above all others, right? So that language and explaining to them in human terms what that really means has an enormous impact in you building a relationship and them being willing to pay you for your value. Because they need to understand, what does that mean? And it's never more easy than in a buyer's market, which we're in, in a seller's market, which we're in, where it's competitive for buyers, that if you don't sign with me, this is the language I use. I don't say if you don't sign with me. The clients that sign with me, I have a legal obligation to send them available coming soon off-market properties first. If I sent them to you without sending them to them, would I be putting their interests above all others that are clients versus customers? They get it. Press hard, third copy's yours, thank you, drive through. They are ready to sign because they recognize, like, this is us getting in loyalty with each other. This is not about you hiring me. This is as much about me hiring you, me the agent, as you the buyer, so that we can reach a goal together. And what you're going to find working with me is I'm going to sit down and take the time to go through what are our goals. And so I have a Google form created. We can sit down and do it in person. If they're an electronic person, I have a Google form created that has like 50 questions of things that they might want about at home. And that includes, I'm happy to share some of that, it includes things like who's the buyer, who's the seller, who's involved in the decision, do you have pets, do you like milk and coffee, do you walk, all these crazy things. How would you evaluate yourself in the neurotic scale? And it's really a good sort of self-inventory to give me better influence, which I can do in person in probably 15 minutes, but some use it and they love it. And then I have a spreadsheet and I can pass it off to a buyer prospect or, to a buyer specialist. So just remember, as it is for you, it's more for them. This is all about emotion. It comes with the agent and everyone. Throw all logic, throw all rationale out the window. This is the top 5 stressors somebody's going to go through in their life in addition to death and divorce. So recognize with an enormous amount of grace of yourself and for the other parties that we're all a bit heightened here. We may be triggered by a word, and I know that language may seem loaded, but that's what's going on, or that's how it works for me, and that's by which I'm going to share my perspective on negotiation, is that we're all at risk of something attacking our ego. And to me, that's what our role in negotiating is, to help to separate the nuances and spectrum of emotion so that we can all reach the same goal. That's really our job. In my opinion, that's one of the most important things we do, and then being the source of the source. So we've got to get to what is the most important outside of price. And that's one of my questions to the listing agent. Other than price, and I'll always say, because we all know that's the most important, what is important to your seller? Now again, I don't assume that they may even know what those things are. So I have this in an Evernote that I sometimes copy and paste to the listing agent when I'm making an offer. Otherwise, I open it every time I have these questions to make sure I don't forget what these questions are, like my top 10, or excuse me, my 10 questions to ask the listing agent as part of due diligence. And if we're in a multiple offer, I've got another set of 10 questions. So what are some things outside of closing costs, time, and occupancy? Does anyone have other things that they think could be negotiating positions within an offer and present as such?
Repairs,
Repairs? Yep.
insurance,
Like title?
flood,
Flood? Did you say flood?
yeah.
Flood, yes. Okay. Absolutely. Insurance is a wonderful one. Could be flood, could be title. How about HOA? How about mow my lawn for a year? Personal property, be careful with this one. I find this does nothing but distract. And speaking back to Hunter's comment about language, one of the things that I use when walking through a home, the first thing I say is, okay, let's find a place I can set my things down. I'd like to start at the front of the home just as I am as the buyer. We're going to walk outside, and during this process, we're going to evaluate this home just as we would if we're prospective buyers, like you're going to do when we go start looking at homes. So we're going to use a critical eye here because the ultimate goal is to help get you the highest and best price for your home. That's what you shared with me was most important to you. It all sounds scripted. It's way more natural when it's going on, okay? And they said, okay. I said, I'd like you to grab a piece of paper. I do not bring my own pad and paper for them. I used to enable them with that. Let them grab their pad of paper and their little comfort level. And I said, we're going to start at the front. We're going to make notes together. At the end, we're going to evaluate A, B, C, what's priority here to what we need to do to go live to market and start the coming soon process. And I want you to keep something in mind. If something is too cool, too unique, too creative, too personal, it is distracting to the buyer. So I use the word distracting. I use it a lot because ultimately we are all distracted by things that take our eye off the ball and the prize. The prize is closing, selling your home, moving your home, making you feel safe, making this easy, bless you. And anything possible that we can do to keep their eye on the prize, that's our job. So when I walk in and I see they've got, Muhammad Ali gloves and they've got their Vanderbilt crown, and oh my God, they love Swanee so much, they got the blankie. Like, we're putting all that away because who knows if they're in the SEC or the BFE or whoever cares. Like, you've got to be mindful of what things are important to people here, right? Football, marriage, who knows who slept with who. You've got to make sure you can eliminate that possibility that this is somebody's ex-girlfriend that your husband, did the rodeo with. So, like, get rid of it. It's not that we don't love your wedding photos or that we don't love these things. Some of them are beautiful, and I do not strip a home of all personal products. I just do it in a way that hopefully we play to the masses. We're selling Honda Accords in that it's neutral enough that someone can envision themselves in. And I know this all may seem very repetitive, but it's about the language that I use, that I find I'm surgical with it. And I'm not up here, I'm like off the cuff in a hot mess express, but like when I'm working with a client, it's surgical in the words that I choose and the pace in which I do it because I want them to feel comfort, and I notice that they get it a lot more when I do that. So, any questions on this? Yes?
I have a question. Would you consider money, like a painting allowance or a carpet allowance, or maybe it's not a repair situation, but
Yeah.
an allowance is a separate thing from a repair? Like, we're going to offer you $500 because we know that wallpaper in the bathroom's ugly, but we like it until we leave.
Yes. Great question. Thank you. I highly discourage allowances or credits because I believe that people can't see past the tip of their nose, including us, even if we pretend we can. Even investors are buying it based on condition. And so if you hate it, change it, you'll get to love it for 6 weeks and hate that we're selling, and the buyer will love it. We should have done this 10 weeks ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. So it's time to spend the money and do this, and so we're going to put that on their project list. And then when we sit down at the end, and I go through my pitch and how we work and how I earn my money, and then we put together a timeline, then we categorize the action list. It's written down. We both sign it and put dates to it, and we have a game plan. And that to me is all about getting to the goal. They want to be told what to do. We all do. We all go in places and we want help. Otherwise, we would just sit at home and spend hours searching online, Amazon, to try and buy a pair of shoes. Like, this isn't that way. There's logistics that need to happen, and there's big companies that are going to try to Uberize this as much as possible. So, for me, I highly discourage credit for wallpaper or carpet. Just put in the notes, we've priced it according to the carpet. Don't be afraid to say, we've seen it, we get it, we have a mirror, we know what it looks like, but don't your buyers say, well, this one needs a lot of work. Yeah, that's why it's $30,000 less than the other one. If it's not $30,000 less, then you may explain that to your buyer, and you may talk to the seller and say such, I see that there was a comparable that's in similar pricing, but I noticed there were approximately $30,000 difference in that. Did you take that into account, or were your seller aware of this other comp? Asking if the seller's aware of the other comps, the agent's are going to say, well, of course they are.
Okay.
They may not be.
It's a very specific question.
Yes.
So I have a unit in a condo complex that I'm listing this week, and they have spent gobs and gobs of money, tens of thousands of dollars to update it. So we priced it that way. Is it fair to just go ahead and say that in the remarks, you know?
I do. I mean, but you know what the market will say to you, just like they're saying to me on my personal home. We vote with our pen. I've had showings. Nobody said anything about price. But I don't have paper in hand, so I'm at 1-1. So what do? I'm going to call the agents today. I'm going to drop it 50 grand and, like, do I think my house is worth more than half the HPRs that are selling at $1 million? Yeah, all day long. But either my marketing is a shoemaker that's not marketing his own shoes well, or it's just what it is. So then that's a great example to the one in Green Hills I was talking about, the designer who put all the upgrades, and she's got the custom draperies that need to hit the recycle bin. But she spent, I guarantee you, 40, 50 grand on the drapes. Not a question. And is she going to get it back? Well, she's been hanging on trying to. Yes.
Hey, just a quick question. Going back to, you said that you have an action list that you both sign. Do you call it action list?
I do. I call it the game plan.
And so the reason why you have it signed is because it really is, they're
Yeah.
told what to do.
We're going to start practicing our signature before I whip out my buyer's rep or my listing agreement.
So you feel like if they don't need to sign that, they don't have to do anything.
We don't need to do any of this. Like, I don't even want to bother bringing my paperwork because I'm just going to send it to you to sign electronically because I don't have time to print that out or deal with that anymore.
I mean, what do you think it's like, just writing something down 25 times where it's going to make you more motivated?
Oh, I just think there's power in them writing their action list, and I think there's power in them signing something that has the action, the date, and the who.
So they actually write what you guys sign.
They write their master list on their journal pad. Then in my listing presentation is a page that calls what's next. And it has a statement about what I'm committed to, and then it has a list of lines that says action, who, and date, or due. And in there is the bullets of repairs, seller, and we don't go through the whole list and put a date to them, but we assign, call the painter. Well, that's going to be Ted's column because I have all the resources, and I'm going to, we dice it up that way.
So it's a pre-printed thing with, okay.
It is, but there's just blanks there for us to fill in of what's happening next. We're getting enrollment, right? This word of enrollment, you're getting them on the field with you. They're in your pocket just like you're trying to get, together. This is a team effort, and I tell them that. Marketing your home, let's be clear, I'm not having the bake sale, but if you want to bake cookies, I'll be here for the open house. This is a team sport. People know people know people. We can help each other. Yeah. I think we covered this about buyer's rep. Bobby uses that dating and marriage. I use about loyalty and commitment, right? This loyalty piece is important. Because especially, like I said, seller's market, they need your loyalty. Now you better be clear you're on top of your game, but be cautious in your buyer's rep that you indicate what sources you're searching for a home. Don't just put all, right? Because all could be the newspaper, and I don't know if you're reading the tax record. So we talk about facts, know it before the deal begins, right? Be the expert, or know where to get the expert answers. And don't be afraid to say you don't know. It's such a powerful statement. If you saw my Facebook post recently, Someone shared that. I really, really loved it. Know your market stats. Don't be afraid to know you don't know the market stats and be clear to that with the other party. These are the stats that I pulled. They're just the ones you pulled, and give them the criteria that they used. Obviously, the listen more, talk less. I really think that starting at the beginning, I mean, sometimes asking somebody, what's your why? Like, that's probably not going to be a great way to kick off the chat. But never, never, never assume. Don't assume that they've been in the business a long time. Here's a good start. Before you even call them, go on HomeSnap and put in their name, and it'll show you the transactions they've done in the last 24 months. All of them. It'll show you cumulatively, it'll show you their average price points and how many units, and that may give you some insight into their experience. Now be cautious, there's some rock stars out there that don't sell a lot of units because it's all in somebody else's name. So again, never assume because of that, but I'm trying to get as much data as I can to help give some perspective, right? Google the agent. Oh, you play music, you're from California. I saw on your website that blah, blah, blah. Establish rapport. You're doing the same thing you are with your clients as the other agents, so we can all get in the boat together and we can all start rowing the same way. We're looking for a canoe, not a kayak. All right? Any other suggestions that people use on finding people's why? So obviously questions about what motivates the move. I'll use that language. What motivates the move? Really open-ended, gets them talking, and then just what motivates the move, and shut up. Let them talk. Let the conversation breathe. Let that place have space. I don't know, we just really thought that such and such. Oh, cool. So have you found that you need more room for your pets? Don't assume. Like, I can't stand this one. What is it? Will your wife be involved in making the decision? I don't know. Do I have a wife? Do I use the word wife? Is that appropriate? I would expect us at this company with this culture and diversity that we hold a higher standard for that. Be mindful of that, the use of pronouns, the use of assumptions, all those type of things. And don't assume because someone's sensitive to it that they're in that bucket either. That's another pet peeve. Agreed? Makes sense? Cool. Okay. Competition. This one, again, as I came through, be careful of getting in that argument and trying to be right and trying to educate or convince them because as Bobby tells me you're just going to annoy the pig. Right? Trying to get the pig to sing. Most of the time, probably I'm the pig and I get annoyed. So try to approach that in a way of a collaborative. Like, hey, I looked up comps in this area, but I realized that I may have missed some things. Would you be open to sharing with me the things that you found? Because I want to make sure that together we have our clients on the same page. Do you see the difference? Now, how did a lot of this it's a growth gift that's happened through practice, right? So coaches, role play, scripting, doing it in the mirror. I really believe in recording and redoing it. You know, even the best of the best have coaches because they've helped them find blind spots. And I believe that's what most of us are trying to overcome. So it's not that this just is going to work itself out. Invest in your craft and your time to work this part out because, to me, it's going to help you in all areas of your life, beyond just selling. Obviously, said it's include features more than benefits, or use more benefits than features, right? It doesn't have crown molding, right? It's got other things that I ask people in my listings, top 10 reasons you love your home. And I put this in the listing. I can't believe nobody else is really reading this off yet. But I put 11 by 17 or whatever it is in the home. It says top 10 reasons I love my home. Because nobody gives a about the crown molding and the granite, really. What they care about is, can I walk? And are the neighbors amazing? And do they watch my kids? And where do I see deer when I drink my morning coffee? And, you know, we had a new set of puppies in the backyard. And oh my gosh, this is amazing. Benefits, benefits, benefits. Not features. We good? Good. I have a written agreement. So we talked about the or what, the if or what. Every condition of clause needs an or what. Do not write something in a contract and not say or what. Seller to provide HOA documents and financials in 7 days. Or what? Or what? Gets scary to write the or what. Nobody wants to talk about the or what. That's our job, is to deal with the or what. Our job is to prepare all parties for the or what, so that when or what happens, does everybody know what I mean? Anybody not clear about the or what? Please don't be shy, this is the time. So, the or what, because when it happens, they all look to us. And never more is our job and credibility compromised than we didn't have the or what covered. Yes.
I don't want to take you down a rabbit hole, but when you're dealing with a client who's type A personality and they really don't want to talk about the or whats,
Yep.
because they really trust you, because they think that you're going to take care of all the details, how do you handle that on the front end to respect where they're coming from, but, you know, not fire or whatsoever? What do you have a trick or a tip?
I think so. I want to make sure I understand your question properly. So, their trust, let's say in a buyer, you represent a buyer or a seller.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
It just helps for context to give me an example.
Let's say a buyer.
Okay, so you represent a buyer and you're writing the offer and you need to say that you want to say that the seller needs to do something. Is that fair?
Yes.
It's the or what. And the consequence can sound serious and maybe alarming. Am I following?
Well, they may not even want to hear that. They just kind of like, they want to make the offer.
Yeah.
They don't really need the details.
Okay.
Because they trust you.
Absolutely.
So it's a matter of really respecting that.
Yep.
If they're signing a 11-page document that they're, you know, and I said, we can go over these in 60 seconds, which you can.
Yep.
That may even be too much for this kind of personality.
Yeah.
Do you have a trick, a key word that will engage them enough to hear about consequences?
So I don't have something canned, but I'll tell you what comes to mind. And that would be, I want to make sure, I might put it upon myself. I've shared a lot of these things. I share these things many times a week because I've sold a lot of homes. But what I recognize is this is an important decision, and I need to make sure that you're super clear so that I'm clear to be representing your best interest as to how we're structuring this. And so that if these things were to happen, your expectations wouldn't be missed. And while it may not seem important now, my job is to help prepare us for the what if. And I hope in 99% of the time, this state works in handshake, good faith agreements that I find are a little bit risky. And my job is to help mitigate risk. And so together, I'm just going to give you my suggestions as to things that we should consider in presenting to the seller if they don't meet their obligations. So you mentioned that you wanted to have the pool inspected, and so we just need to clarify, because again, you don't want to do this because it's putting your client in obligation, but you should. Pool to be inspected within 7 days. You might include by whom or a licensed pool person. I would be careful how specific you get. I don't recommend putting certain people's names in the seller title column. What if that person has something happen to them? Now that person's name is tied to your contract. Do you follow what I'm saying? Buyer's Title Company is not cause at Buyer's Title Company. It's Rudy Title and Escrow. Make sense? I know it saves time so they know who to send it to and who to call. That's not part of the agreement. Okay? So just, I'd be putting it in that frame in that I want you to be a part and to review this terminology because it's very, very important in respect to not just protecting your interests, but holding the seller accountable. So I try to phrase it that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry for the.
No, that's fine.
Following on that, I'm not arguing against or what, because I believe that hammered it into my head continuing.
Yes, mine too.
When you say something and you don't want to piss off the seller,
Yep.
and you say something like, this contract is subject to satisfactory review and acceptance of condo docs to include blah, 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 you know, budget, balance sheet, etc.
Yep.
and give them a time, within 7 days.
Yeah, I got it by 7 days.
So,
Or what?
Isn't the or what implied by if they don't do it in 7 days, the deal is dead?
I don't know. I get cautious around the words implied or assume.
Understood.
Yes, but is it, every time I have gotten into that situation with myself, I find myself like eating my own tail. In just circling like, it seems that way. But it's, in a court of law, if it's not clear as mud to where two people who are interpreting who's holding their earnest or trust funds could make a clear assessment, then we just opened ourselves. So I don't disagree. There's many times I'm sure I forget to put it because it's so natural for us to say. Seller to provide HOA docs and financials within, and I want them in triplicate, a binder in 7 days, and my buyers to review them and find them acceptable. Or what? They didn't find them acceptable. Then what? Then they can terminate. How soon? What document would they use? Oh my gosh, Ted, this is absurd. No, it's actually our jobs. Yes.
I was just going to say I had this exact scenario with HOA docs about a month ago, and if it worked for me putting in the if what, or the what if, sorry.
Yep.
I don't know what would have happened because we were dealing with a seller who was an attorney,
Oh.
who was cantankerous,
Yep.
who was actually being sued for not paying of his HOA dues,
Okay.
probably due to something wiggly.
Sure.
And I really think that the what if saved the day.
I have no doubt.
Because
Not even needing to know the details.
So we spelled it out. Because it was just difficult to get out of contract even with that.
Yep, so always be thinking of what if, and with what, and what form, and in what timeline, and what happens to the money. So just write it out. Go buzz Zach and tell him, does this sound perfect? Go ask your title attorney, does this sound perfect? If I could have a scripted language that just change this 3 things, does this cover the what if, the when, the how, the money, disbursement, all that? And then just make that your boilerplate. Eventually, TAR's going to pick up on it. You did such a great job, they might make it part of the form, as they did with like the HOA docs and the notification form. Yes?
Okay, so can you give us an example of your, or what you would, the wording that you would put in that? Because it's a slippery slope.
It's a mess. It's a mess. Yes. May I come back to that?
Sure.
Awesome. Because what I'm doing, as a buyer's agent would ask me, is I'm figuring it out why I didn't answer that right now. I don't need to figure it out. I don't know that I had it. I don't think I had it written out, but do I think I could pull it off quickly? Yes, and we'll do that together at the end. How about that? Cool. All right, moving forward. We all good?
Yes.
Excellent. A lot of talk about or what, but it may not seem part of a negotiation, but it is, because as soon as you start including the or what, they're like, know what? They do not want to talk about that or get into that because that's the scary chat. That's the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. Deaths, deeds, and divorce, right? But we should. It's not if, it's possibly when. So let's get it on the table when we're friends before we end this. Okay? And so find language in which you can talk about that. Say, hey, I'm putting in a condition here about the pool, and I want you to know it's not because we don't think we're going to perform. It's just that my client and I had a bad experience where it didn't work out, and then we were all in a mess. And so I'd love to avoid that on the front end. So let me know if this language gets you excited or your seller you think is going to be upset by this, and we can maybe massage this to a way that works for everyone. Now we're working together. Sure, this all sounds perfect world. Does this happen in every transaction I handle? No, it doesn't. But if you have a plan you're searching for, right? Shoot for the stars, or hit the minimum, whatever it is, just have a best practice. So putting your views aside, again, I try to always remember, like, what is this person dealing with? What is a priority to them? What is their why? As I think about my client, you know, he's got a little bit of a trust funds, he's semi-retired, but he's still a human and triggered by the feeling that he's not winning. The feeling that he's being, in fact, he used the word, I'm being bullied. And ironically, the listing agent said, she feels like she's being bullied. I said that. I said, my client feels bullied. She said, it's so interesting you use that word because it's the exact word that my seller used that she feels about this negotiation. I said, well, clearly we've got everybody on the wrong book. So we never really got back on the right book. I mean, I had HVAC inspectors over there and they started working on the unit. And of course, she comes home because can't respect somebody being in our home inspecting, and you can imagine how that went. So we conceded to be done. And I told them we would not be buying any personal property, and we're just going to smudge the shit out of that joint. And that's kind of how he left it. I was like, okay, bring your smudge. I don't believe, there's some books I'm going to share at the end as part about this win-win and how do we create a win-win. And I think that's, again, language is a difficult thing because I think there's so much emotion wrapped up in different words, and it's hard to find win-win, but I use language such as, how do I say it? I'll use it when it's selling. I said, as soon as this home doesn't feel like you live here, we're on the right track. Does this not feel like home? Great. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it doesn't feel good. That's how you know we're making progress. I don't believe much differently in a negotiation. When it starts to churn your inside, you might be getting closer to agreement. Because in all situations, both parties should be giving. Right? And if you feel good stealing, then maybe you're not my client. There's situations where I felt the seller had priced something too low, and with my buyer's permission, we had a conversation about how they wanted to handle that. And some, in this situation, like he wanted to offer more than I was comfortable with. And what did I do? I let it. And then what did he do? He brought me the comp of the next door and said, this would have been nice to know. And all of a sudden, it was my responsibility that we overpaid for the house. Right? So I use that language about discomfort or feeling a little uneasy is when sometimes we're getting to a place where both parties are giving. Right? Everybody wants to know you didn't leave a nickel on the table. I think we got everything we could. I think that the seller gave everything they were willing to give and still take a breath. Right? There are all sorts of language that works for you as far as how do we reach that point. So when it comes to vanilla negotiation and splitting the difference, I just think this is terrible. I address this at the front end. Do not negotiate with intent we're going to split the difference. And set that expectation up front with your sellers and your buyers. How do I do that? So I say we are not going to price this home with the fat in it, in that we're going to help somebody come. Well, we know someone's going to come in lower. Well, we don't know that. We're assuming that. And while that may be industry practice, I can tell you listings in this area that are priced at this price point sell within 3% of their list price. It doesn't mean they listed 3% over. It means they sold 3% within their list price. So you can do the try it and let's see. I've watched that movie. I'm playing it right now in my own home. And the try and let's see, you use your listing presentation and it kind of shows on the graph, right? The interest in your home is directly proportionate to the time on market. This being time, this being interest. And then I'll draw another one right here, and this is my coming soon marketing. So before I go live to market, I am instigating interest in the home, and that's typically going to happen the moment I put the new car on the corner lot, right? When you first hit something, is the interest going to be greatest? Yes. But the more time, it's like bread. And there's a price for yesterday's bread. In fact, there's a price for 3-week-old bread. It's just used for different purpose. And I use this exact language with sellers. They're like, oh yeah, I bought yesterday's donuts. It just is a little longer, but it's the same way with homes. And I use language like grand opening. This is the grand opening. We don't are still getting our yard mowed and our shit together when we started the grand opening. Because you never get it back. You never, ever, ever get your first day back on market. Do not list a home without photos in there. Please, dear God, don't be one of those people. So, and our system now allows that. You used to have to go live and then throw the photos as quickly as possible. But prepare all parties. I'll come right to you. Prepare all parties that we are not going to be, I lost the train of thought. Silly.
My fault.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so with the coming soon now on the MLS.
Yes.
I always fight myself about this. If you take a personal one shot of the house, I mean, do you wait until you have the professional photograph?
No. Coming soon is called grassroots. Like that's the time. Is it hot here to anybody?
Yeah.
It is. Okay.
So you think it's okay.
exact flyers.
So you can just have one teaser photo.
To me, the coming soon is what people really care about. I don't want the canned presentation, but anyone like some fans? Well, they're coming back. They're right here if you need them. I think coming soon marketing is what we really want to see. It's the under the hood reviews. It's what you're reading in Amazon that like you really believe. It's not the canned crap that people are pushing out the professional lens. So me standing in front of the home, giving them the skinny dirty, that's the best chance it's going to sell for the price, the highest price. Not once the pro photos go up and I'm having serving wine and cheese.
So you think would you have your clients share whatever they want to?
Yeah.
On social media?
100%. We're coming to market. If you're interested, here's a link to my realtor. Here's an idea. Prepare it in advance and send it to them and just say, this is a template if you want to use it. Just like my top 10 reasons you love your home. I don't just send them, prepare top 10 reasons you love your home. I send them a Word document that has everyone filled in, and I just say, here's some ideas to get you started.
But no more than a picture of the, I mean, you don't want the picture taken like this, or it's okay. You're saying when you come soon, it's okay.
You know, I believe in progress over perfection when it comes to that, so I would say just take anything over nothing. Yep, how we have time? 5 minutes, we'll knock it out. Okay. Covered that, builder contract and negotiation. So, again, that's about managing expectations with the buyers that when we get started together, if new construction is a consideration to you, I want you to be prepared for something, and I want you to keep some mindfulness to this. In that when you're buying new construction, it's similar to CarMax in the market that we're in right now, in that they take a different model. It's a no negotiation, no fat model. In that, and if that doesn't work for you, that's fine, but I warn you of this. I've had clients overpay for homes that were $100,000 under list price. And I have overpaid for homes that I knew were below market value. And so, recognize and keep in mind that not always are what you're paying equate to the value. Right? So be really careful, and I'm going to try to be your teammate in this, that we don't get hooked by winning on price. And see that language? I mean, I'm your teammate, I'm your this. This isn't cheese, this isn't bullshit. Like, this is what I believe, this is what they feel, and it is, like, it's personal to me. Which is why it makes it so hard for me to get my butt out of the way. When this seller started throwing her tube, I told that agent, I said, I let my slip show. I said, you tell that seller, I've got every right to this fucking house by till midnight. And I'm likely to trump every shitty, dirty foot inspector I can in there before midnight. And my expectation is that she's not home. Are we clear? No response. I guess it was clear. She came home 30 minutes into my HVAC inspection, and she cussed everyone out, including Maggie, who went there on my behalf. There you go, Maggie. She was the recipient of that lovely seller. Yes, I still owe you money for that, but on more than I said. Yeah. And then I talked to my buyer, and before I opened my mouth, I said, what would you like to do? I gave him all the facts, and I said, look, we didn't order radon, so I'm going to get you, I got him a quote for what radon mitigation would be, hence, if we find it. But he's a perfectionist, and he wanted his basement encapsulated. Guess what a radon system does? Encapsulates the crawl space. I meant to say basement, not crawl space. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone, and guess what? As a preventative measure, do you think as a meticulous buyer who wants everything in the inspection done, every little item, as my parents are this way, he says. I said, I would recommend go ahead and doing the radon anyway, because radon doesn't come and go, or I mean, radon doesn't just come and stay or not stay, like, it's a moving target. It could show up after you did your radon test and you live there 20 years, and you lose a spouse to it. Start selling radon systems, they're cheap. It's a good preventative measure. Like, we care more about carbon monoxide detectors than we do radon machines, and we barely have CO2 stuff, so I'd sell that. Covered this. Study management routine language best practices. I think I've given you some of this. I want to come back to this and head into the finish line here. We doing okay? Try to be mindful of time here. Have your walkaways. Know what your walkaway is and explain that to the buyer and recognize that's a moving target and you're not going to hold them to that, but we need to be prepared for what that really is. So, establishing what are realistic goals, right? What's aggressive, shy of offensive? Using words like what's reasonable. Is that reasonable? It's like good faith. What the hell does that mean? We're all going to work in good faith. Well, there's sort of this language like acts of God, like that we just all have this mutual understanding. So let's make sure that they are enrolled in that understanding from the beginning as well. That we might miss some homes that hit the market. And we have to have faith that, you know what? We missed it for the right reason. And I'm not just giving you some faith-based kumbaya, like it's all good speech here. I'm telling you from personal fact and experience, both personally and professionally, you must have faith that the right one will show. And that I'm going to be supportive of you through that process. I don't need to walk in these homes if you could never live here, so please click on the map, and if you see a power pole behind the listing, don't put it in your list you want to see. That's in my instructions when I send them listings. Please click on the map and make sure geographically this location works for you in order to make best use of your my time. These little things help me be more efficient, effective, and save my clients time. So that's language I will use a lot. I want to make best use of your time. And I, of course, use this language with listing agents as well. Don't negotiate for something that's not worth it. You got to understand and be clear on what is worth it. What's worth it? So like the furniture, which we originally going to negotiate on, was something that we determined was like not worth it. We were going to get off of that. Okay. The difference in negotiating and arguing. I know the difference, but I still find myself participating in both, unfortunately. And again, that I just get hooked. I just am human and I get hooked. And some clients probably think that makes me great because I'm a bulldog. But that's not what you're hiring to be. I know that bulldogs get less than puppies. And perception, our actions and our words are really what determine if we're bulldogs or puppies. And I really believe that there's a way in which to be, probably the quintessential person I would say is Bobby Murray. Not because she's my mom, I just have seen her be a bulldog, and I see her be Mother Teresa to other people, and she blesses a lot of folks. But let me tell you, you get cross with her, if you've ever seen her, it's no joke. I mean, it makes me look like the puppy. So, and what's beautiful is she knows when to do it. That's my lesson that I'm still learning. Okay, so my advice, practice daily with your home negotiation skill. Role play with team members. I'm happy to start a negotiation role play group if you want to do that. Be prepared with arguments, objections, opportunities. What may come up, right? So just make a list of what if. Of the time that you spend in your daily block while you're still becoming a master, and I don't care if you sell 100 units a year, you still need to invest time in bettering yourself. And you can pay a coach to help you go do this, or you can just find a peer, and you together could split the list. Okay, you make the list of what if questions during an offer, and I'll make the list of what if questions during the inspection. And then we'll start a small group, and we'll have everybody a part of it, and all of a sudden we'll be a kick-ass, organic team. Other ideas around this? Being ready with alternatives, I use Evernote. Use whatever you'll work, but have it somewhere you can access. So I'll just click over, I can show you my screen of, I have a whole one on contract language, so anytime I need to write a home sale contingency verbiage, I have that canned. Multiple offer, an escalation clause. Are they perfect? No. Have they been massaged and improved based on me seeing others? Yes. Further reading, you can take a quick picture of this if you want. These are all great books. Getting Yes, Crucial Conversations. This is a fantastic one for relationships, despite me still being single. Getting Past No's a goodie. How to Win with Friends and Influence People. My dad's personal favorite, which he's probably never read. Never Split the Difference. This is a good one for dumping to 50-50. I haven't read this, the book on negotiating real estate. Expert strategies for getting the best deals and buying sounds boring. Art of negotiation. These are my faves. There's a certification for it. You can go pay Harvard $5,000 like Brian Copeland did and his team and get a certification that shows you've been to Harvard, got a sweatshirt, and you've learned from the best. And apparently it is a very good class. So be prepared for misspellings, that's fun. Okay. I'd love your feedback on what you think we've potentially missed or you'd like to cover in our last couple minutes. Yes?
Okay, you said you had a link to the canned responses. Did I miss that?
The or what's?
Yeah, you said you had
Evernote.
Oh,
Contract language.
the contract language. Okay, I can show you. I don't have a link to it. It's just been one that I've developed, and I'm gonna not do you the disservice of giving you mine in an effort for you to help develop yours. And I know that's frustrating because we all want the microwave answer. But I can tell you it's come from, let's see here. It's just come from organic development. It's not it. Here's Evernote. Sorry, y'all. End the show, it says. Okay. Let's show you how hot dogs made here. So I'm planning a camping trip, so I have one called camping, but if you just put in here contract, can y'all read this? Is it too small? Oh, it's small. I'll see if I can make it bigger. There we go. Contract language. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Important points. All offers must include this. Your discretion to include if multiple offer. Property conditions, both are special steps. Please add this to our buyer contracts if for any reason all utilities are not on. This is my reminder to me. If for any reason all utilities are not on and mechanicals functioning, including fireplace and water heater, time inspection, and final walkthrough, seller to pay inspector fee for reinspection of the items not functioning, and any fees incurred with delayed closing. This also includes access to the crawl space. Anybody ever had that problem? Yes. Silly little things like that. Here's one where I put in a fee. During final walkthrough, if it's not all working, and we cannot test the appliances, we'll hold $1,500 in escrow at closing. All personal belongings need to be removed from the crawl space before inspections. I have more good ideas than I have if I use, but these to me can save a lot of problems down the road. Yes?
Are these just like your own personal, like 707 sort of?
That's exactly what it is. Yep. Here's stuff on an escalation clause. Let's talk about home sale contingencies, because I've got that in here somewhere. Does anybody have any ideas on home sale contingencies? I'll make this bigger. You can plug a couple pictures so it'll at least get you off to the races with, look at all this jazz.
Well, there was the one that went past all the lawyers that is in the clause, that's in the transaction that's clauses, but it went through this.
Yes, for the home sale contingency? Yep. I think your question may have been more around how can you position yourself to be more attractive having a home sale contingency. Is that fair? She left? Well, we're going to table her answer. No, I'll give it to the rest of you. So it would be, for me, things such as a personal letter written by the buyer, showing them my statistics and speed of selling. Because now they're putting their eggs in my basket. So I have to show why my basket is going to be fantastic. So here's my marketing plan, here's our game plan. Like if you're not even on the market yet, and there's multiple offers, you probably need to exit stage right. If there's not multiple offers, and you're putting an offer on a home that's maybe been on the market for a couple of weeks, now show them why you're going to sell this home efficiently, including your listing agreement having predetermined price drops based on dates. Does everybody follow? What a great time to set that expectation when you're meet with the listing rather than have an awkward call in 21 days. So in this instance, I say, okay, we're going to list at $499.9. I recommend $500 instead because if somebody's looking from $500 to $700, you don't get found for $100. We're going to list at $500, and within 7 days, not to exceed, within 7 biz days, or here, do yourself a favor, just put by September 15th, Price to go to I'd go to $489. And then by September 22nd, it's going to go to $479. And it's really probably not going to live there except for about 4 days, and I'm going to go to $475 because price categories are important. $25,000 increments. Budgets aren't $485, they're $450, $475, or $500. So that'd be a way in which to make your home sale contingency offer have more meat. That they see this buyer that is selling is not playing around. And did they come up with that strategy? No, you did. Not Zillow, you did. Cool? Questions, comments? Here's a little thing I revised based on loyalty agreement. You know, I got tired of giving somebody a 0.5% because they're my sister, so I said, nope, we're going to have one predetermined based on the price. Because people don't know what a 0.5% is, and it's a hell of a lot more than what you should give them on a loyalty agreement. They know what $250 is. But they know what $500 is. They know what $750 looks like. They don't know what a 0.5% is. So get into that. And I just wrote language around it. We love our work concert with first multiple sales within 2 years. We want to have a fair and equitable standard by which you will. Yeah, probably need some examples there. Due to level of service, blah, blah, blah. You get it, right? Special commissions retainers. I just start asking other agents, what are they doing? Or these are deals that I had made with builders so I could remember. Right? So then when they say, hey, you did the last one, and I said, well, you know, I don't run my business that way anymore, but based on this, and this, we could potentially do this. Home sale contingency, just basic language, but didn't talk about some of the solutions that I just did there. As-is conditions, seller's occupancy, post-close, all this stuff before the 707 existed was me frustrated about having to do something twice and figuring it out. I'm an efficiency person that I believe if I have to do something twice, there should be a system. Because your clients deserve it. I do not want, when I go to Home Depot and I ask them, do you know what this paint does? And they go, that's the answer to a different question. That was, can you help me read this label? It is. It's just an answer to a different question. It's not that their solution was wrong. It's just not what I'm looking for. Unless you have insight to bring to the table about, do you know what this does? I don't need help reading the label. Now you have to be careful you don't pull a Ted Pins and go, yeah, you know, that's not the answer I needed, I can read. I would say that on my better days, but we find ourselves reacting that way to other agents, and all of a sudden we're off to a bad start. And they can trigger us just as quickly as we can then. So let's all just try to give each other some grace. Most importantly, yourself. I think at the end of my little presentation, I mentioned to you, the person you're going to negotiate the worst with is yourself. So be prepared for the arguments you're going to make with yourself in order to give you the results that you want. Because it's a fierce negotiator, and the alternative most of the time wins, and has with me. This year's been a year when I've been able to stand a little more in my truth and be truthful to, this is what I'm living for and this is what I'm about. I've let go of all expectations about production and sales and any of that. My passion is now helping people. Here, I used to do it more with clients and work to the end of commissions, but now I realize if I can help other people be successful and it can help me be okay, I'm good. So thank you all so much, and I'll be here if you have any questions and share anything I can.